Well, it's an honor to be here. And I want to thank President Goodnow for that wonderful introduction and the opportunity to be here. And the reason we picked Delta College is because of the great work being done. In particular, I really want to highlight the Fast Start program, which is just a wonderful opportunity where they're focused on important programs for the future. That's the topic of today, about connecting talent. They're working in chemical engineering, advanced battery, and solar technologies. And they're partnering with real companies that lead to real jobs for our residents and citizens in the state, with companies like Dow, Hemlock, Dow, Kokum. It's a great partnership. And so that's why I'm pleased to be here and honored to be here to celebrate the success that's happening right here. So thank you so much for the good work you're doing and the opportunity to share that with the rest of the state. Now I'm excited today. I've given several special messages. I think this is the fifth one in the list or so. And as a practical matter, I can tell you, if you talk to our team, they would tell you this is the one that I got most excited about doing. Because it's about the most important thing in our state. And when I say thing, it's more than that. It's us. It's about talent, our people, and the opportunity we have to be a great state again. Because it's really focused on reinventing Michigan. And when I always talk about reinventing Michigan, there are two key drivers. One is the need for more and better jobs. And the second part is about creating a great place for our kids, a place that they can be excited about staying and having a career and having a family and long-term success. And their kids can have that bright future. So when you look at the reinvention and you talk about jobs and kids, you come back to talent again and again. And so that's where I'm excited to talk about this topic. And this is just the starting point. We don't have all the answers today, but what we're doing is creating a path to success, a path to national and world leadership in understanding how to work with talent the right way to create the best paths to success. So with that, let me get started. Because one of the challenges we have to begin with is traditionally when you talk about state government, people talk about workforce development. And to be open with you, I don't like that term because I don't think that's the right answer. Because when you talk about workforce development, it implies you're talking about just work, a job, when we need to be talking about careers for people. And the second piece is the development piece. It talks about giving someone some training, some skills. That's not good enough. It's critically important that they get those skills, so it's nothing negative about workforce development. But it's not good enough to say you simply help give people training or skills. We need to connect them. We need to get those people successful in a career by connecting them where demand and opportunity is and fulfill that full cycle. And that's where it really comes back to saying it's not workforce development that's most important, it's talent that is most important. And so in many respects, we've got very good work already going on in these programs. But let's take it to the next level. Let's take it to where the future is. And that's what counts. And so one of the easy illustrations I want to show you about this disconnect or the need to move to the future is simply the facts out there, that there are opportunities. So if we could have that first slide, please. And the slide we just put up, in that you may not have difficulty reading it. We're happy to give you copies, and we'll have it on the web and everything else. It shows the importance of connecting supply and demand of talent. That although we've made success this year in terms of finding jobs for people, and if you look at Michigan over the last 9 months or so, we've added about 55,000 jobs so far this year through September in the state of Michigan, which is good compared to the rest of the country. In a relative sense, we've added a number of high-wage jobs as part of that. So that's been successful. But we still have unemployment at over 10%, and that's not an acceptable answer. And it's interesting to note, with this high unemployment rate, we currently have about 77,000 open jobs. If every one of those jobs was filled, 77,000 jobs roughly equates to almost 2 percentage points of our unemployment rate. Think about that. And what I did on this slide is we actually have a list of current openings. So if you take a look at this list, you can see registered nurses, truck drivers, industrial engineers, mechanical engineers, my personal favorite, accountants. Now, if you go through this list, it actually has the number of jobs available and the average wages. And if you look at this list, these are good jobs, a lot of them. And the issue is we have a misalignment. So we need to align talent in our state. Again, connect people with the right skill sets to the employers in the right place and the right time. This slide also shows in the future, some of these are continuing to be issues. This is a projection out to 2018 or so, saying these are some of the future positions that we know we're going to have openings in. And again, actually accountants move up to number 4 on that list. So there's opportunity out there. Let's fill these positions. Let's make sure we make that connection. Because it was interesting, we had one study from Georgetown University that said, if you look out to 2018 and you said, what skill sets are needed? They did an analysis that said about 62% of the jobs are going to require some sort of 2-year credential or post-secondary, post-K through 12 credential to be successful. In our state today, we're only about 35%. So we almost need to double the number of citizens in terms of their skills and their credentials to be successful. The other issue is even if I looked at that 35%, the people that have those backgrounds, they may not have the right credential. And how do we create that environment for success? Huge opportunity. And it's been a missing link for far too long. And the discussion we're focused on today is solving that disconnect and making that tie and making that connection. And it's with something called Pure Michigan Talent Connect. So if I could have the next slide, please. This site is actually live right now. We've already launched. And this is going to be a living thing. So when I show you this today, it's not all done, but it's a great start. And I want to thank the MEDC and a lot of good, hardworking people that have put this together. But there's actually a plan in place to say through June of next year, we're going to continue to make major enhancements on this site. But I also wanted to get up live so we can get feedback from all of you to tell us what you think could be improvements to make it even better. And by June of next year, if not sooner, we should be leading, again, the nation in connecting talent. If you look at it, though, it's very simple and straightforward. It's starting to do that connection. It talks about trying to find a job for job seekers. It has a place for employers to go to say, hey, here's the talent we need. And the other piece is, for the long term, for our young people that are still in school or people looking for new careers, here's career management tools. So you can go look at various careers and say, here are the skills you need and where you can acquire those skills. So it's almost to get to a concept of one-stop shopping for talent. Next slide, please. Again, job seekers. We have some great mechanisms out there already. It's starting to aggregate that information to say, here's one place you can go to start saying, what are available positions today? Next slide. Career Explorers. And I'm going to go through some details on some of these. It actually has 2 different new tools we're launching. One is career matchmaking. To say, here are the skills you have, here's the skills you need for a particular profession. And how is your alignment? The other one is an interesting one that I think has been missing for far too long. Let's give people a tool to show the return on investment that they can get by getting that education. So literally what this does is allow you to say, this is where you're at today, this is how much you make today, this says how much it's going to cost to go into a particular field in terms of education, here's the lifetime earnings, and do a calculation to say, does it pay to go into this profession, and how much in terms of a lifetime earnings stream. It's a great tool. Next slide. Again, if you Career Explorers, computer programming. If you're interested in computer programming, you can bring up these. It'll tell you income levels that you can earn. You can click through and find out what's required in those backgrounds and do some matchmaking. Next slide. Here's the investment calculator. Tell about yourself, what you're currently making, what's your annual wage, and how many years you plan on working in this job. Next slide. Now this is your desired career. You want to be a computer software engineer. There's the pay. How many years would you be in it? Because again, you got 4 years of education before you're going to be ready compared to the other one. This case, you need a bachelor's degree. How much would you earn while you're going to school? How many years? Education cost, it calculates. And again, go to the next slide. Then it pulls it all together. If you stay in your current career, lifetime earnings stream, present valued, $571,000. If you go and figure out the desired career after education, 1.8 million. I think that's a pretty good incentive to go get that education. And then it actually has a comparative one, so you could do a second career and compare the two. These are the kind of tools we should have, and that we're now going to have. Next slide. Now, employers, we don't want to leave them out, because in many cases, when I talk to employers across the state, they tell me they're concerned about their future talent. That they're worried we're not going to have people with the right backgrounds. And to give you an illustration, those studies are already out there showing that. If you look at the computer field, we're graduating 20% less than what we need for computer and science fields. For healthcare, it's about 14% less than we need. So this is giving an opportunity not to talk in theory, but to give a place employers can go to show their current employment needs and kind of their future needs in terms of where they're headed. Next slide. And I want to thank it. We actually have a talent pledge to sign up companies that want to participate. We've actually had a number of companies already sign up with the launch. And I appreciate that. You can see some of the names up here on the slide. Some major organizations across our state. And I hope we get this slide so full it's difficult to find a name. But what we're going to do is hopefully each month highlight the employers that are joining this process to actually help market the fact that they're part of this process and they have employment needs. Next slide. Something for entrepreneurs. Because again, we want to encourage gardening, economic gardening. People starting organizations and being successful. So it will work for both large organizations and startup organizations. And people that want to get started. Here are the tools to go find to start your own business. Next slide. Here's an important topic that I'm going to talk about more, but it's about our veterans. We need to do a better job with our veterans in this state. And so we want to highlight special tools for people that really deserve additional support. These people have served our country. And we're not doing well by them. And we need to do a better job. Next. So basically, we've got this whole opportunity in terms of this Pure Michigan Talent Connect. And I encourage you to go check it out as soon as you can. Hopefully you'll still listen to me for a while before you start browsing in your seats, though. It's mitalent.org. And we're excited about that future. So a key piece of this is that connection. It's going to be a living site. Again, give us your feedback and thoughts, but let's go use this site. Now, the other part I want to mention is there are specific categories of people out there that we want to, again, emphasize. And I started with one already, but I'm going to go through several of those. Veterans. Let me come back to that. And let me give you a couple numbers to put in perspective how poorly we're performing. If you looked at the numbers last year, in terms of we had 40-some thousand service people come back into our state from either Afghanistan or Iraq. Their unemployment rate last year was running about 27%. That's unacceptable. The national average is still too high, was about 15%. We have to do better by these people. So we're going to actually emphasize a program to say, let's get the Veteran and Military Affairs Department to work better with Michigan Works, with the MEDC, to bring a collaboration of those together, but also make it a public-private partnership of how do we connect with employers in a better way, to really highlight the fact that these veterans have skills that are very important and that they've served our country. And we are not going to forget them, and we are going to put a special focus on helping them be successful. It's got to happen. It needs to happen. Another group we're going to emphasize that has already always been important, but we've got a couple good programs to roll out across the state more and more, is for basically displaced workers. People that were at large organizations and found over the last few years their job disappeared. And in many cases, these people were very successful people. They had good career paths, but simply their job has gone. And their whole career was spent largely in a large corporation. Well, we've actually got a couple good pilots. Ann Arbor Spark started a program several years ago called Shifting Gears that now the MEDC is going to take statewide. And what Shifting Gears is all about is how do you take successful people with good skills, but they spent their whole career in a large company and we need them to shift to a small company or a startup company. And Shifting Gears is run enough times where we can see the real results. And to give you a stat on the results from that program, Typically, within 3 months of finishing the program, about 50% of those people have a placement in terms of an opportunity. And it grows up from there fairly quickly within 6 months or 9 months. It's been a very successful program. And it's an opportunity to get them in a position where they can be part of a small organization that will then create jobs for many other people. Now, a variation that is going to be something new is something called shifting code. I just mentioned the fact that computer software is one of the highest demand areas. So there's actually going to be a program for people that had traditional careers that now want to go in and learn how to be software developers, software coders in some fashion. And we're launching pilot programs in Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Kalamazoo in January on that. Good opportunity because you can see the pay levels and the opportunities there. So displaced workers are a group that we need to focus on in terms of that regard. Now, another one that obviously pops to mind are young people and our youth, about how do we get them involved? How do we create paths for them? And if you look at it, I go back to my own history, a couple of things that really drive success in my life were mentorship and internships. And it's an opportunity to really build those things. And we already have some good things going, but they're not good enough. We can do better. And so when you talk about mentorship, the Community Service Commission already has a good program called Mentor Michigan. But we want to expand that. And we've gotten a great response. We have a partner join us now to say, let's do more mentorships, and it's actually the Michigan JCs. So the Michigan JCs are going to partner with Mentor Michigan to go much more statewide and to broaden that program dramatically, to create mentorship opportunities for our young people, and any of us. The other one are internships. Because as we know, if someone has an internship, the likelihood they're going to stay with that company and stay in that geography goes up exponentially. And so we have the Intern in Michigan program, but there are other programs. We're going to start bundling more and more of these intern-oriented programs together and use this as a one-stop shopping site to aggregate that information and create more opportunity. So that's exciting. Now, I've talked about 2 or 3 groups there. Another group I'm going to mention that we're actually going to do some work in Washington in terms of encouraging a change of attitude is actually about innovation and entrepreneurship. And one area that we're sending a different course than most of the rest of the United States is I'm proactive on immigration, legal immigration, for advanced degree people. Literally, we have thousands of people coming here to get advanced degrees from other countries. They come and get a fabulous Michigan education. And we have a federal environment now that basically says, now that we've educated you, you've got to leave. They like being here. They're being successful here. We should keep them here. They're going to create companies and create jobs. So one of the things we're going to ask for are several things on the federal level to be proactive. About EB-5 is a program for entrepreneurs and innovators. H-1Bs are for larger companies that really want to have technical talent here. That if you talk to many large companies, they're struggling to find technical talent. They would like it to be here. And then finally, a green card program for these graduates that are getting PhDs in engineering, in the sciences. I'll give you a number to give a perspective. In the United States for PhDs now in engineering, over 60% are foreign nationals. And we need to keep that talent here to really help some of our companies succeed. So that's something that has some controversy to it. I'll get feedback on that, but it's the right thing to do. And we need to be proactive on that front. Now, another topic I'm going to shift to is something that doesn't get talked about often enough. But we don't walk away from tough problems. We're here to solve problems. And that's about the structurally unemployed. People that haven't had the opportunity. They may not have the skill sets. They may have dropped out of school. They may be challenged on literacy and other issues. And we can't forget those people. It's critically important that we be more proactive, that we step up and do a better job. And that's my commitment, is we are not going to walk away from that category. We are going to embrace it as an area we need to dramatically improve. And that gets to 2 or 3 programs I'm going to mention but it's really about working together. One of the first things is there's a program called JET, Jobs Education and Training. As for people that are currently on assistance, they're participants in the JET program also in many cases. And to give you an idea, Michigan has been, much like our veterans, we've been a failure in many respects with the JET program. Our success rate of having people placed that are on assistance into jobs is only about 27%. The national goal is at least 50%. That's unacceptable. So we're looking at major improvements and revising that program to actually show real success for people. We need to do a much better job. Another part of that is how we work with our Michigan Works agencies. And so I've got a couple slides here to illustrate that. One of those is right here to say we've got a lot of good things going on with Michigan Works agencies across the state. They've done a lot of good things. But to be blunt, they can do a better job. We need to raise the bar. And one of the first things is we've got 25 or so of these organizations across the state. Think about it, 25. That's a lot of islands. We need them collaborating, working better together. And what this map shows is we did an analysis to say there are basically 10 economic regions in the state of Michigan. And so one of the things I'm encouraging and supporting is we move to a more regional basis. Again, not changing the agencies, they'll still exist, but getting them to collaborate within their economic basins and work much more closely together. It's about results. The classic illustration I use to people is if you think of the Detroit area. There's ones in Wayne County, Macomb County, Oakland County. And we know there's a long legacy of 8 Mile being a barrier. 8 Mile should not be a barrier. If someone's living in any one of those counties, shouldn't we create an environment where they can find work in any of that area? We should. And we're going to focus on that. So this really talks about the opportunity to do regional partnerships between Michigan Works agencies and with our economic development organizations in those regions. Again, the next one actually highlights how it has come together, where there are good operations. And I already talked about great opportunity with like the college here and going on, but you can see this partnership concept is happening all around Michigan, about groups to come together to say, let's create programs of success where employers are working with community colleges or other training organizations, and we need to focus on that. But one thing I also want to mention that too often we overlook is we're a state that builds things, too. We're a manufacturing state, and we should be proud of that. We're an automotive state, and we should be proud of that. So when I talk about careers, it's just not about getting a college education. It's about having a career where you can succeed and do well. And in many cases, we've got great skilled trades in our state that we need to embrace more, and we need to collaborate more. Because there are great opportunities there for the long term in terms of apprenticeships, opportunities to have a great lifestyle. And I really want to appreciate that. We've had some of our skilled trades organizations step up to say they want to be proactive and participate in this process. And in particular, I want to recognize the operating engineers. The operating engineers are being very proactive about saying they want to participate in this process. If you looked at that chart that I showed that showed employers signing up, the operating engineers have signed up. Also, the carpenters have been very good about saying, let's join this process. So let's bring this opportunity together to say it's about all of us coming together and creating careers again. So there's this collaborative effort to make all that happen. Now, a couple other things I want to mention are some reforms that we need to make. And the good part is, for the legislators, usually when I give special messages, in the last ones, I've given them a long list of things to do. Much of what I've talked about today are things we can do in the executive branch, things we're going to ask the federal government, but there are a couple things I need the Michigan legislature to participate in. And there's two specific asks on unemployment insurance reform we want them to look at, which we think are good improvements. One of those is something that's already happening in many other states. I think 22 other states are already doing this. It's called something called work sharing, where basically if there's a situation where a company needs to cut back, instead of simply laying off someone, if there are people that want to participate in this, create a work sharing arrangement where they can still work, but their hours get cut back dramatically, but they can get some proportional unemployment compensation so they can have a livelihood and survive in a scaled back work environment. Because isn't it better to keep them working than not working at all? And then have them being in place as the economy comes back, as the company comes back, they can go back to full-time employment. So there's an innovation there we'd really like to look at. The other one we want to mention in particular in terms of having them look at is the opportunity to start a business. It's not just about finding a job, it's finding a career opportunity again. And so several states have already piloted this program. Oregon's a leader in it, where basically when someone's on unemployment, instead of saying you have to go get trained and you have to go look for jobs, if they present a business plan opportunity to say they want to go work on this instead, they can get a waiver and have the opportunity to work on their business plan while they're still on unemployment, to go create a new opportunity, to be an entrepreneur, to be a proprietor, and to be successful. So I think that's a good innovation. So those are the two things for the legislature that we're specifically asking. But I've left out one other group, or a huge group, probably the biggest group, that we need partnership on. This isn't about the government solving all these problems. This is about Michiganders working together in partnership. And so it involves all the sectors. It involves the public sector, it involves the nonprofit sector, and it needs to involve the private sector. And so you've heard a number of that already about the employers signing up, organizations signing up, but we need to bring people together and recognize success and how we can support one another. And I really want to thank groups for stepping up. We've had a number of them. As I showed you, the employers are already getting involved. Companies like Kelly Services, organizations like Henry Ford Health System, the operating engineers. We need to have innovative programs like you saw on this chart, where great companies have stepped up, like Dow, working with Delta College. Those are the kind of exciting opportunities we have. And we need to learn that we're in this together. It's just not about the government solving this problem, but it's about Michiganders solving this problem. And that's exciting. And that kind of brings me back to a point that's always important to me. I know I may be a broken record on, for any of you that have seen other messages. It's dashboard time. Because my rule is, if there's no dashboard or scorecard, why are you doing it? Because we need to measure it. We need to know how we're doing. But I do like to remind people that when you hear about grades, scorecards, dashboards, metrics, measures, the normal human nature reaction is saying, well, that's a really cool idea if you measure somebody else, but don't measure anything involving me. Because people don't like the idea of being graded typically. And why is that? Because they're afraid. They're afraid it's being done so they could be criticized. That's one of the cultural messes we have to turn around in this state. And that's in our own minds. Because that's not how I look at it. I believe in relentless positive action. And the point of having that metric, those measures, is how do you know that you're succeeding? And isn't it a way to recognize success? And isn't that what we should be doing? So instead of viewing it as a negative, we need to view it as a positive and an opportunity. So we have a dashboard. And I know you can't see all that here. Again, this will be all over the place. You know how we like to get our dashboards around. But there are a lot of good measures here that you'd expect. It talks about the number of jobs in our state. It talks about pay levels. It talks about net migration of population in and out of Michigan. Unemployment rate. You can see that, if you can see this, there's a thumbs down. It's on veterans' unemployment rate, because we want to measure that. Again, a number of other ones. Innovations. How many new businesses being created? What's their survival rate? Up here on the global front, how many people are getting permanent resident status in our state? How many international students are studying in our state? How many of our students are studying in another place in the world? To say we have in a world economy. And then connections. How many STEM graduates, science, technology, engineering, and math graduates are we showing each year? How many apprenticeships, going back to the skilled trades again? Again, mentors. We have a placeholder for that. Internships. We have a number based on the Interns in Michigan program. And then finally, welfare to work participation, talking about the structurally unemployed. There's that 27% number I told you how poorly we're performing. Let's just put the numbers up. And then let's work hard on making sure all those things are going this way. That's what this is about. So it's great to be with you today. And hopefully you can see I am fired up about this topic. If you talk about what's most important in Michigan, and a lot of times I like to go ask people, and when you first ask people, the first default answer you get out of most people when you say, what's the most important thing in Michigan that gets you excited? A lot of people will say the Great Lakes. And we love the Great Lakes. But they're not the most important thing in our state. You are. We are. It's us. It's the talent we have. And it's the opportunity to lead the globe. And the issue we've had is we didn't pay a good enough attention. We've got a lot of good, hardworking people in workforce development, in educational institutions that are trying to do good work. But we were missing part of the equation. We weren't aligning where our talent was with where opportunity is. And too often we got in the mindset of saying we could rely on the skills of the past when I talk to you about what's needed for the skills of the future. So we're solving that. We are looking to the future. We're going to have the best tool in the country and the world to say, here's where the future opportunity is. Here's how you can look at where to find that opportunity. Here's where you can look to get the training to get that opportunity. Here's how you can see how it can impact and make you have a better life and succeed. And how you can help your children succeed. That's exciting. But I will remind you, we're only starting on that journey. This is a big first step today. And I want to thank all the people that helped make that happen. But this is a message that I call, it's quieter now, but it's going to grow in power and opportunity. Because as Michiganders, we all win together by all participating together. This is a chance for us all to come together. There's no losers, there's only winners by doing this. By looking at this website, but more importantly, by building those partnerships that I was talking about across all sectors. And forgetting all the old baggage and old lines and saying it's time to reinvent Michigan. Thank you so much. Thank you.